Peace. This is the Alkalites to Realize talk show, and today we will be having Santos bonacci on the talk. We will be, just building upon things. So there isn't particularly a topic to discuss, but just talk about things in general. But yeah, brother, you can introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you're about, etc., etc. Wait, your voice. We can't hear you.
Oh, why
Yeah,
is that?
now I
Am I
can.
mute?
Yeah, I think you were just muted, but now we can hear you.
I wasn't muted.
Oh yeah, you weren't muted, but the voice just wasn't going through.
All right. Well, to sum up what I do, I use the word syncretism. I'm a syncretist. I syncretize information, integrate it, make it comprehensive and comprehensible. But the way of life of a syncretist is, to sum up in one word, the philosopher, the lover of wisdom, and one who walks faithfully and loyally for eternal, everlasting rewards on the philosophical path that reaps rewards, everlasting rewards in the heavens. So it would be the right-hand path, to do what is right, to have principles, ethics, morals. And so what I teach is also has the dimension of ethics. It is philosophy, it's physics, and ethics. They are the three pillars of what I teach. So I think that about sums it up.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So tell us, I guess you can tell us a bit about astrology and how you view that, because I know you're also well known for being an astrologer, an alchemist, and I think a theologist.
Yep. Well, those are the three pillars of high magic: alchemy, astrology, and theology. So you've got the two sets of three. And then you've got the seven liberal arts, of course. So these were taught not only in schools, but also in academies and in the homes of everyone. And universal wisdom was all syncretized. Divide and conquer came along afterward. And so astrology had to be poo-pooed. Astrology is just basically the science of electromagnetism. It's the only way to understand the electromagnetic world, because the waves of electricity are in a 12ness. Most people see waves as a 2ness. The sinusoidal wave is positive, negative. And of course, the simple mind limits itself to these two phases of up and down, hot and cold, boy, girl. Whereas the philosopher sees all the different conditioned energies along the wave, and there are 12. Aries is the first. It starts at the top of the head.
Mm-hmm.
Cerebrum, the cerebram, cerebram. And so in heaven, you see, heaven is head, same word. Pineal gland, optic thalamus, third ventricle, all of this stuff is heaven. And Gehenna and hell is below. And so you see, the first condition of every wave is plasma. Aries is plasma. The second condition is Taurus, earth, solid. The third condition is Gemini, air, gas. The fourth is Cancer, water, liquid.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see, the four states of matter are already expressed in the wave in their different modalities: cardinal, fixed, and mutable. So cardinal, fixed, and mutable is growth, birth, decay. So fire in the sine wave gets to be cardinal at the start, fixed in Leo, and mutable in Sagittarius. So fire is expressed in its birth, obviously at the start of the wave, where it should be. Plasma starts every event and every wave. And so plasma, solid, liquid, gas. Plasma, solid, gas, liquid. And it repeats in three modalities. So 3 times 4 is 12. And so it's only logical that you have to understand energy in a 12ness, because there are 4 elements, universal, and there are 3 ways of expressing those 4 elements. Every element has a beginning, a middle bit, and an end bit where it decays.
Right.
And the decay is the mutable. Mutable signs are decay signs. Got some noise coming from out there, so I thought I'd better shut that. So this is why the scriptures are all encoded with 12s. Jesus and his 12 disciples, Israel and his 12 tribes, Ishmael and his 12 tribes, the 12 trees in the Garden of Eden, the 12 loaves of bread on the table at in the temple in the wilderness, the 12 precious stones on the ephod of the high priest of Israel. Even Josephus, Jewish historian, says that all the 12s you see in the Bible, they all come from astrology. So why should we now go and poo-poo it when the very Jewish scholars of the Hebrew Bible tell you? And the Greeks do as well, you see.
Right. I would assume for control purposes, because I am aware, that astrology, it frees us by teaching us ourselves, by letting you know who you are. But I was going to ask, so how do you mean by decay? Like, what does that mean for mutable sign to be the sign of death or decaying? Like, how does that express itself?
Well, there has to be 3 phases of energy in nature. It has to grow, it has to start and be born, and then it flowers and preserves or grows, and then it must decay. Everything extinguishes its cycle. Everything has a cycle. So our lives have one big wave, and at the end of the wave, we die. Inside that wave is nested many other waves, years, decades, months, weeks, days, and they all are fractals of the big wave. That's why events keep repeating themselves. Every year, you find that certain events repeat and revisit, and you wonder, oh boy, this happened to me at the same time last year. Why is it happening again? And so along the wave, you will have these 12 conditions. And as the planets go through the ecliptic, through the signs, they channel energy. They are mediators. They are mediators between the heavens and us. And they give us these gifts. Whatever gifts they give us. You see, when the sun goes through Taurus, that's Aaron and Moses killing the bull, because Aaron and Moses represent the sun and the moon. Or Mithras killing the bull. Or Hercules killing the lion when the sun's going through Leo. Or Samson in the Bible with his long hair. The long hair is the rays of the sun, because in Leo, the sun is massive. In Capricorn, the sun is a little baby, where the baby is born on 25th of December. Sol Invictus. It's always the sun. So when Samson gets his 7, obviously the electromagnetic spectrum, the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 colors of the 7 chakras, when he loses those 7 braids or rays of hair, Samson has 7 braids of hair. The sun is called the 7-rayed god. Same thing. So when Samson gets his hair cut by the Philistines and Delilah is the darkness, you see. When the sun goes dark at night, it loses its hair. It gets cut and it goes blind. And it goes down into the night, midnight, and it gets killed. Samson kills himself in the temple. Well, that's represented by the night, and also in the yearly cycle by the winter on the 21st of December, the solstice. It's a crucifixion. All of them are crucifixions. Easter's a crucifixion, the 21st of March. That's why you have the hot cross buns at Easter, because it's a crucifixion. And then Easter, brings the Passover lamb? Well, that's Aries, because it's the first sign. And so you eat the Passover lamb. You see? It's all in astrology. Astrology is theology. It's just another side of it.
So would you go as far as to say that astrology is the only language in the universe? Would you also go to say that astrology is more valued than numerology?
They all support each other. Astrology is the mother of all sciences. Now, most people that aren't familiar with astrology will laugh at that. And the reason being is because they know nothing about it. Exactly. If I called Chinese a pseudo language because I don't understand it, I would hurt myself. So if you call astrology a pseudoscience because you don't understand it, you're hurting yourself.
It's so true.
It's just a language. It's the universal language. Music, you can't debunk music. People say, oh, I'm going to debunk astrology. I've seen many try and do that, you know, foolishly, really foolishly. You just stand to make fools of themselves. Because how do you debunk a language? I don't believe in astrology, I know it. I don't believe in English, I know it. Some people express English very well, others very poorly. It's a tool, and it works. Astrology works because you're interpreting energy. You can see in the future through the transits, you can look forward and project and say, oh boy, the sun's going to be in Aries, the moon's going to be opposite in Libra. You know, that could bring certain energies. When the sun is in Taurus, you have certain conditions. Throughout the day, there are 12 conditions. In the morning from 6 to 8 a.m., since that's the start of the day, that's Aries energy. Fire. Ding, 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 the alarm clock goes off at 6 o'clock. Aries, arise. Aries, arise. Go to work. So you energize with the plasma of the cardinal fire of energy. Then 8 o'clock, Taurus. Taurus is the second sign, rules the cerebellum, the cerebellum. Cerebram, high ram a biff, according to the Freemasons. Well, that's high ram above Aries. So when the bull at 8 o'clock starts, you want to put something in your mouth. So you have some tea at work, you have some cookies, you have a sandwich, you have a bit of a snack, breakfast. And things are subdued between 8 and 10. You can notice it. You'll notice the energy between 6 and 8 every morning from sunrise 2 hours later is very, very explosive because the sun is generating that energy to get us into activity. And then Taurus immediately slows us down and gives us material concerns. And then at 10 o'clock, Gemini begins. Gemini is air, communication, intellect. So we start back in work again and we activity, the twins, activity. And then at 12 o'clock, Cancer. Cancer is water, emotions, and the stomach. And so we have lunch in Cancer between 12 and 2. And then Leo, fire again. So we go back out to work, and our best work is always done between 2 and 4, the hottest part of the day. Leo, fixed fire, representing the sun, Cancer, the moon, and the stomach, the concerns of the stomach. And then Virgo is the last day sign between 4 and 6, and that's Delilah. And every time the Samson goes through Delilah, she betrays him to the Philistines. And he's got to get his hair cut off in Libra. Libra is the justice of the sun, the scales, waiting for the sun to hit the western horizon, where the Egyptians say the sun dies, because they say that west is death, and they have this expression, westing, dying. So when you are westing, you are resting and dying, because the death is the rest. And then, of course, Libra hands over the sun to Scorpio. And between 8 and 10, Scorpio rules. Scorpio is the 8th sign. It rules the generative system and is generally the time when couples mate to have children and procreate. Then Sagittarius, between 10 and 12, is the meditative sign, the number 9, where we contemplate before we go to bed and take our 8 hours or 6 hours of sleep. We could even start sleeping at 10 o'clock and wake up at 6 to make it more accurate. Some people only have 6 hours, some have 8. Mm-hmm. Others like to meditate in that 10 to 12 period. Then at 12 midnight, the devil, Capricorn, Saturn, Satan, the ruler thereof, begins the dark, contemplative hours, early hours of the morning, when most people do their best work, as they say. And then, of course, Aquarius, 2 and 4, mental activity. Most people that are up meditating at 3 in the morning in Aquarius time, they get to know a lot of things. Aquarius is about knowing. It's the witch's hour, because you become a wizard, because you learn and you know. And then the coldest period is 4 to 6 before the sunrise. Pisces, water, cold, the fish coming up, ready for a new day. In Aries, arise in the east. And so what we have is the science of electromagnetism, the science of astrology and knowledge. Astro means stars, which means light, which is God. And logi is logi, which is logos, which is, well, you know, you've got logistics, logical, theology. Everything with logi is the knowledge of, or the word of. So astrology simply means the word of God. And that's why Daniel was an astrologer in Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Joseph was an astrologer. He had a dream of his 12 brothers bowing down to him. Mm-hmm. It's all, you can't deny it. You can't. If you deny it, you make yourself a fool, because when you research, you discover that. And that's how I did discover it. I did a lot of research. I read the books.
Yeah, exactly. So you can go on to say that all of the messengers and prophets of the Bibles were simply astrologers? Or
Of course, the prophets of God. God condemns the astrologers, though, just as he condemns the high priests and the kings and his servants and the judges who judge incorrectly. See, people say, oh, God condemns astrology in the Bible. No, he condemns those who practice astrology because they are corrupt, just as Jesus condemns the lawyers. Jesus is not condemning the law. He came to fulfill the law. He condemns lawyers. Woe to you, lawyers, for you bind these little ones with burdensome loads for which you do not care to carry. You see? And this is how superficial people's minds are, and easy to influence. Their pastors will tell them that God condemns astrology in the Bible. No, he doesn't. Job 38:32, God tells Job, you better learn your astrology. Can you tell forth the Mazzaroth, Job? Can you tell forth the stars in their season? Do you know where Ursa Major is at any given time? The Pleiades, Orion, the 7 stars of Orion. In the book of Amos, it says, we worship the God who made the 7 stars of Orion. The stars applauded when God created the universe, etc., etc., etc. The Bible is encouraging astrology. It is the most famous treatise of astrology in the universe, when properly understood.
Mm-hmm, right. So then, can you talk on where the 13th sign came from?
There is no 13th sign. There's 12 signs. The 13th sign is people trying to be clever. They're trying to put Ophiuchus in there because Ophiuchus's foot supposedly has entered the 18-degree wide belt of the zodiac. So formerly, only the 12 signs of the zodiac fitted in that 18-degree wide belt.
Right.
But the foot of Ophiuchus standing on Scorpio, there's a star, there's a couple of his feet, stars in his feet that are actually inside there. So all these clever ones who wish to make names for themselves for teaching lies are teaching that there's a 13th sign, which there isn't. The 13th sign is the sun or the moon, because the moon's months are 13 every year and the sun's months are 12. And then there are those who, with little knowledge, urge us to go back to the cycle of 13 and to leave the heliocentric, patriarchal, masculine 12 signs. Well, that's just a load of ignorance, because it will always be 12 and it will always be 13. It's just that we need to use all systems and be proper syncretists.
Yeah, okay. So I'm aware that in our numerology, we have a tendency to simplify numbers unless it's a master number. So I know that 12 would be 3. So is there any significance with 12 and 3 in astrology?
Well, 3, 6, 9, 12 is the magic master number of creation. According to Tesla, 369, only he omitted the 12 because otherwise he would have given it away. That's why he said, if you understand 3, 6, and 9 in the universe, you will pretty much understand everything, because the multiples of that are always go 369, 369, 369. 12 is the master number of the universe. It's in everything. The dodecahedron, which is the 5th polyhedra, well, that's 12 hexagons. Carbon, the universe is made of carbon, but not just carbon, it's made of carbon 12. It's the isotope which makes up 99.9999% of all carbon. It's carbon 12. We have 12 systems in the body. Aries, the cerebrospinal and nervous system. Taurus, the endocrine system. Gemini, the two twins, the arms and the lungs, the respiratory system. Cancer, the immune system and the lymphatic system. Leo, the cardiovascular circulatory system. Virgo, the digestive system. Libra, the urinary renal system. Scorpio, the generative system. Sagittarius, the muscular system. Capricorn, the skeletal. Aquarius, the 12 meridians in the body. Pisces, the integumentary system, the skin. And that covers the 12 systems. Why do we have 12 what are the 12 cranial nerves? Gee, I'm getting a block here, but around the cerebrum, the Lamb of God, Jesus Christ, there are 12 cranial nerves, right?
Yeah.
Why? Well, because everything's in a 12ness. The universe obeys astrology. Your body, it tells you. You see? So
it really is 369, 369, continuously repeating itself.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So earlier you mentioned about how, so what I want to know is, are there other zodiac signs and other, I guess, universes or galaxies? Or do the signs, regardless of where you are in the universe, they have similar energies and they repeat themselves?
Energy is expressed in a torus field, and it's a 12ness. And it's going to be like that everywhere in the universe, wherever you go. So the sooner we get to know astrology, the sooner we can go everywhere in the universe. A torus field Well, look at your body. It's a torso, torus field. It goes in through the fontanelle and out through the perineum. And that energy is, that aura is channeling in your body. And it is a 12ness. And so wherever energy expresses itself from counter space into space, it will be in a 12ness. And so even in the transcendence, in counter space, there's still the system of 12, because it's the full, complete expression of every cycle. It has to have all those conditions in order for it to produce and create its desired effect, whether it's a thought wave, an emotion wave, a sound wave, a light wave. A wave is always 12ness. And the wave is the 13th member. So that's where 13 comes from. So Jesus and his 12 disciples are 13. Jacob and the 12 tribes are 13.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So I feel like, there's a lot of confusion around Saturn. So I was wondering if you can kind of discuss Saturn and what exactly it is, what it represents, things of that nature.
Saturn is Chronos, time. And the reason he's castrated by his son Jupiter Zeus, Zeus, is because time is not a thing of itself. It's our concept. Time doesn't really exist. And space, they can't do anything. So they are castrated. And so, but Saturn has all the power, because what is born in time dies in time. So Saturn is the boss. Saturn is absolutely the god of this world. As it says in the Bible, Satan is the god of this world. Because he makes the world. He makes it possible through time. Outside of time, temporal existence cannot exist. Tempo is time. And we live in a temporal world, which is unstable and transitory. And so Saturn collects all principles unto himself. Therefore, he is the great boss. I love Saturn. People criticize me and say, oh, why do you hate Saturn, Santos? Well, because I talk about Saturn's negative side. And people just hear that. They hear what they want to hear. They don't hear when I extol Saturn and when I show what Saturn really means in the birth chart. Saturn is where you are most accomplished, where you will reach the highest perfection in any field. I have Saturn in the 7th house, which is to do with partners, marriage, philosophy, divination, health, all kinds of spiritual matters. Well, that will suggest that I will reach the highest level. You see, when you have that, what's it called when you get your matriculation at university and you have that square black hat that they put on you? Can you help me?
I'm not particularly sure. I would assume when you graduate.
Yeah, graduation. Okay. So when you graduate, they put that Saturnian square on you, and the Jews put the phylactery on here, and the Muslims have the Kaaba, or Kaaba means cube. So Saturn is cubical. It's cube energy. It's black energy. Cube energy is in counter space. You won't find cubes in nature, in space. The universe doesn't make squares, it makes circles. And so the cube is in counter space. That's why Saturn is such an enigmatic archetype. See, it's a super type. And Saturn is where in your chart where you will reach excellence, discipline, order, constraints and boundaries. He is the planet of highest evolution, because when you're finished, he knocks on your door, the Grim Reaper, and with his scythe, he cuts down the life of the individual. And so Saturn being Satan, or Set, or Joseph, the father of Jesus, Jupiter Zeus, and his mother is Maria, which Zeus's mother was Rhea. And so you see, whether you go to the Greeks or whether you go to the Bible, you've still got Joseph, Mary, and Jesus, Saturn, Rhea, and Jesus. You know, we can thank the Christians for carrying Zeus's name in the Bible. We can be very thankful that they still worship the God of God and King of Kings, Zeus, Jesus. You know, it's all preserved. It's all there. When you know your syncretism, you know what to look for. And you can see what all the religions are doing. They're all doing the same thing. They're all preserving the true science until the day that we awaken and we understand our scriptures and are brought back to that original knowledge that we once had, because it has been fragmented, it has been persecuted, it has been rubbished, ridiculed, mocked, derided. And how many people in the past have been killed? Pagans, Christians, Muslims. You see, the Christians will cry, oh, Christians were killed in the past, they were persecuted. So were pagans, so were witches. Everyone was. Mm-hmm. Everyone whom the order of the day didn't consider to be necessary for their empire to exist. So they were persecuted. Christians were astrologers, they were pagans. It's funny how many churchgoers say, oh, that's pagan. Well, pagan only means country dwellers. See, the country dwellers were called pagans. They were laughed at because they didn't come to the city to learn the latest news. They didn't come to get matriculated and get all the refined material. So they kept their traditions out in the country, and they were called country people, pagans. And we curse them, and we think they're evil. This is how stupid we are. Christians are pagans, Jews are pagans. It's just another variety of any one of those religions. There's not a separate group that say, I'm a pagan and that belong to a pagan structure of any kind. It's just that they they have perhaps they could have old knowledge that they are protecting in their traditions, or they could have knowledge that is not as accurate as the ones that go to the mystery schools in the cities. Therefore, the city dwellers think they're a little bit better. Well, the Romans, in the Roman cult, they were the ones who really made that contrast an issue, because they invited all people to come to their universities and into the cities so that they could indoctrinate them. And therefore, they taught their indoctrinated ones to rubbish the ones who were not indoctrinated. But they didn't want to go to the indoctrination schools because they wanted to preserve the truth. So pagans have more truth than churchgoers at times. You see?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. So, I feel like I should take this opportunity because I know you're an astrologer. And one of the things on my birth chart that I really get confused is Saturn. And my Saturn is in Gemini in the 3rd house. I was wondering if you can briefly explain what that is.
Okay, well, Gemini is air, so it's mental. So you can look forward to mental excellence of some kind with Saturn there, because Saturn is a great refiner. But you will also, whilst he gives you the greatest of gifts, he also gives you the trials. He gives you the trial way. Mm-hmm. Jupiter gives you the easy way to there. They do the same thing. Jupiter brings you excellence as well, but he gives it to you easily without the trials. But you'll get the same goodness from Saturn, only as he gives a gift, he also gives a punishment. And that's due to his nature. You see, so it's more like good and bad. And in the third house is about bravery, initiative, courage.
What if there's a conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn? Because I have
Sorry?
that. I said, what if there's a conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn? Because
Oh, all the better. Beautiful. Conjunctions of any kind are marvelous because they, you know, they make a super type. You know, they add their energies together, and it's very, very difficult to pin exactly what they do when they come together, because every chart is so nuanced with different, you know, different dynamics and energies. But you can rest assured that it will bring greatness to the individual. Conjunctions bring greatness. Stelliums, conjunctions, aspects, trines and sextiles. You see, in the scriptures, there are many different angles. Let me see if I can get my whiteboard. Give me a minute.
yeah, of course, of course.
Okay, I've got the whiteboard. I'll just go and grab texters. So the last place I left, I had to leave my big whiteboard, but bear with me.
Yeah, of course.
Have a look. So in a circle, in the chart, what you'll have is, if you get aspects which are called trines, these are 120 degrees. And that's called a grand trine. So if you've got a planet here, let's say Saturn is over here. Saturn's over here, Jupiter is over here, and the Sun is over here. Well, that is a good angle. That is benefic. Now, when you get, on the other hand, square, you have a planet here, one here, and one here. They're all 90 degrees apart from each other. "90 degrees, this is called tetragonal radiation. This is called trigonal radiation. Trigonal, tetragonal. Tetra is 4. 4 and tri is 3. You see, so if you've got in your chart, say the Sun up here in the 10th house and Saturn over here in, it'd have to be, say, in the 5th or 6th to produce a trine, well, they are going to give favorable energy to each other. But if you've got a planet here, 90 degrees separate from another one here, here, and here, what will happen now is you will have an opposition going through the center, another one going through there, and what you have now, that's called a grand cross. And that can be a hex or a curse on the individual. These can produce bad health. These can produce troubles in life. These can produce blessings in life, good health. And there are other aspects as well. For instance, a 60 degrees is called a sextile, and the opposition is 180 degrees. Those are the 4 main aspects. And you see the oppositions, 180 degrees, and the squares, 90 degrees, half. This is Saturnian, Saturn, because he is the opposer. This one is Mars. This is hot and dry. This is cold and dry. This is Jupiterian, the trine, hot and moist, very benefic. And this one's Venusian, I suppose you should call it. But those are the angles or the angels. You see, we have guardian angels, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, those are the angels, the angles. The angles of energy coming through the dimensions, through the transcendence, to bless us. That's why we talk about demons and angels, because there's good energy and there's bad energy. And so when we worship or praise the angels or archangels, which are archetypes, then we are harvesting the good energy and we are being benefited and blessed by the God energy of the stars. So the planets are like mediators. Jupiter, which, as I said, in theology is Jupiter Zeus, Jesus, is a mediator because it'll channel wherever it is. Right now, Jupiter is in Sagittarius. Lovely. Retrograding till August. And it's channeling the best energy from Sagittarius. But as it goes, the mechanism of astrology turns, as the skies turn over the stationary Earth, because astrology is geocentric, as it turns, it falls accidentally in the 12 houses. So it's a mediator between the sign of Sagittarius and the house in which it is channeling that energy. So if you have Jupiter in the 10th house, the house of career, you're going to have a big career and very lucky. If you've got Jupiter in the 11th house, you'll have lots of friends and a good social life, and you will be an aspirant. If you have Jupiter in the 12th house, it's more than likely that you will be enlightened. You will be illuminated because it's the house of enlightenment, and Jupiter is giving great expression in that house because he is an expansive planet. So when you know the planets, you'll know how to read your chart, because Saturn is the one of excellence, Jupiter is the one of prosperity, Mars is the one of action, Venus is the one of leisure and pleasure, the Sun is of vitality, the Moon is emotional, Mercury is communication. And so you'll get to see where you communicate well, where you are emotionally stable, where the Moon is, or unstable, depending on the condition of the Moon, where you are vital, where the Sun is, etc.
Right. Yeah, so I myself am an astrologer. I like to do people's natal chart readings. And the way I like to interpretate, like the energies, like the sun, the sign, and the house is, I would say, the sun or the planet is like how you're expressing, and then the sign would be what you're expressing, and then the house is where you're expressing it. So what would you think about this interpretation?
Perfect. Yes. The mediators of heaven, those beautiful 7 circles in the sky, or you could call them spheres of influence. The Moon is the first, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. When you get to know that order, you'll be a very, very happy individual. And those 7, as the energy comes into our cosmos, into our solar system, through them, they channel their various energies. And so they channel them from the sign into the house. The 12 houses on the inside of the astrological wheel, those are personal. The 12 signs, they are collective. They belong to everybody. And so you're right that how you expressed it, it's exactly how it works.
Yeah. So, I just recently stumbled across, the houses and how they work, how, where your houses are is determined by your ascendant sign, because it's kind of what kicks everything out. It's like, you know, the first house. Yeah, so do you think you can utilize this to give people advice about their life and, you know, things of that nature?
Yeah, of course, and that's all you can do. You can only give them parameters and certain conditions and energies to expect. You can't make. You can be accurate. Sometimes you can be 100% accurate, but sometimes you're not, because nothing is guaranteed. You can't. You don't have enough information. You can just see. You know, like for instance, if okay, let's say you're going to court and say Mars is in the 7th house or Saturn. Not good, because the 7th house is the house of public enemies. And it's more than likely that Mars and Saturn transiting that house will bring your demise in court. Say Venus or the Sun or Jupiter, they'll definitely bring you success. And that's just the houses. When you look at the signs, if you're a doctor and the moon, say, is transiting Aries, and you go in on that day for brain surgery, you'll bleed to death. If you go into a doctor when the moon is transiting Gemini and you're getting some lung surgery, you'll probably die. If the moon is transiting Leo, the heart, and you go in for heart surgery, again, you'll bleed to death. The moon is the bleeder. And so, as Hippocrates said, if a doctor does not know astrology, he cannot call himself a doctor. And that was taken out of the Hippocratic Oath, conveniently, because astrology is poo-pooed as a pseudoscience. So it hasn't been proven. Yes, it has. If you get all the data from police records and hospital records and you put them into a computer and then you go through the transits of the time, you will see why certain people died on the operating theatre, why accidents happened with police, and why they have records of, you know, and certain things always happen on Monday in the morning, Saturday night. Why do so many people die on certain days? It's all astrological. You know, people say, "Oh, astrology." Well, then they criticize astrology, and then they say, "Oh, everyone's acting crazy tonight because it's a full moon." Well, you just verified that astrology is about energy.
Right, exactly.
Just validated it by saying that.
Yeah, so I also know that the planets have their corresponding days. So I know that Monday is Moon Day and, you know, Tuesday is Mars Day. So what could you expect, or what would be a good activity or thing for you to do on Monday or Moon's Day?
Monday, get things right with your family, settle your emotions, try to be at peace with each other, probably fast because it's the stomach, give it a rest. I don't know. Tuesday, action, get things done, Mars. Wednesday, communication, letter writing, transactions, travel. Thursday, the day when you want to have success, to be sure to be blessed, whatever you do, that day will go well because Jupiter rules that day. Venus, recreation, relaxation, enjoyment, romance. Saturn, rest, the Sabbath, just rest, because Saturday is going to be tricky at all times. Accidents happen, etc., etc. Saturnian energy is like that. So you want to rest. You want to take it easy. But people have Saturday night fever. Sunday, they make that the Sabbath day now. No, Sunday should be a day for families to be vital, to get together and enjoy health and prosperity and drink to the sun. That's why Bacchus, you know, Bacchus is the god of wine. Dionysius, and they all used to celebrate and drink to those gods because they knew the 7 gods. They knew which one to honor on which day, etc.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you for that. I think it'll help a lot of people because, you know, me myself, I have been incorporating these, like if I'm to do something or if I'm to schedule my day, week, or whatever, I always, you know, look at the energies. And I think that's how it always should be. Indeed.
For sure.
So, you know, also when I'm doing a reading for someone and, you know, let's say they're a Sagittarius or a Gemini. Well, when they're Sagittarius, I always tend to go back and look at Jupiter and see where Jupiter is at. And then I interpretate their sign through, you know, in a way through Jupiter. Because what I believe is that, you know, because Jupiter is the ruling planet, it's like aspecting the sign and it's kind of like telling the sign how to behave, you know. So what do you think about like that interpretation or et cetera, et cetera?
Yep. The planets influence each other. You know, Mars can make Jupiter stronger and healthier. Mars can debilitate Jupiter, depending on whether it's a trine, a conjunction, a square, an opposition, or a sextile. Remember, there's tetragonal and trigonal radiation. Tetragonal radiation is always harmful, but it's the same energy as cruel to be kind. It will push someone. People who have grand crosses in their chart or T-squares or lots of tetragonal radiation generally have a lot of ambition and have a lot of success in their lives through hard work and trials and misfortunes. Whereas the ones who have a lot of trigonal radiation in their chart, they have success due to luck and prosperity and just everything goes their way. And you think, oh, what's he got? That, you know, why is he so special? How come he gets all the girls? You know, how come that guy's always single and, you know, he's never with a girl? You know, it's in the chart.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with how he looks. You see handsome, pretty women and handsome men who don't have partners and always have problems with partners. And then you see people who are ordinary looking, I guess. You know, it's in the eye of the beholder, but you see they've got their partners. You know, because it's all astrological. It's in the chart. There's certain fates and destinies and certain things that will happen and won't happen. And it's all in the chart. If we had all the records of the Egyptians and the Chaldeans and the Indians all preserved rather than destroyed, as the Vatican did when they destroyed the Americas and the Popol Vuh and all the Mayan and Aztecs and Incan texts, we would be able to collate all those texts, and we would have much more expanded and comprehensive knowledge of astrology. Everyone would know it, and we would be much more accurate in our predictions, and we would be able to bless our lives. For instance, certain times of the day are better to be born in than others. You don't want to bring your children into this world between the hours of 6 and 8 in the morning, because they will have the sun in the 12th house. The 12th house is the weakest. It's bad for health. It's good for hidden enemies. It's good for fear, stress, anxiety, phobias, self-undoing, self-sabotage, and misfortunes. So you're going to condemn your son, your child, to a life of trials. If you wait between 8 and 10, and the sun will rise up a little bit more and end up, if we do the houses, let's have a look at the houses. So going back to our chart, we have, that's called the line of the earth. That's called the meridian. And then we have the 12 houses. The first house is always here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this is the AC, where the sun rises in the morning. This is 6 o'clock, 12 midday, 6 p.m., 12 midnight. The IC, the DC, which is the descendant in the west, the ascendant in the east, and the MC. So this is the AM side. Midnight, 1 a.m., 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 midday. This is post-meridian, PM, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 p.m. And so if you've got the sun between 6 and 8 anywhere here in the 12th house, that's the worst house for health. That is absolutely the weakest of all the houses, and that is the strongest, the first house. So you want to wait till about 8 and try to get the sun in here, the social house. This is a very lucky house. Or you want the sun in the 10th house, where they will have a great life path and a very, very good career and respect and honor and dignities. Mm-hmm. So you want to try and get them born between 8 and 12 in the morning. Not here, where most doctors are pushing out babies deliberately, knowing, because they know this. High up, they know this. They might not know that down in the operating theatres and everything like that. But usually they gear hospitals to have epidurals and cesareans between 6 and 8. I know, because my son had a cesarean 26 years ago, and he was born luckily at 8:20 and has the sun in the 11th house. So he's very, very, I didn't know about this back then. And so families would have their family astrologer, their family physician, to teach them these things and help them. And they might say, look, try to, if the pregnant woman's about to have the child, they'll teach them breathing exercises so as not to have the child today, but hang on if you can, breathe, and bring him into the world tomorrow at 11 o'clock. And guess what? You will have a very prosperous and healthy son, and you'll bless your son.
Mm-hmm. So what if the moon is in the 12th house?
The same. Any planet in the 12th house is always going to bring their condition, their archetype into that scary house.
So not even Jupiter?
Sorry?
Not even Jupiter in the 12th house?
Well, put it this way, Jupiter will be the best one anywhere. But still, Jupiter can't fix the house. It's like, if an angel goes down to hell, well, hell's still going to be hell. If you put a nice, beautiful piece of paper in a fire, it's still going to get burnt. Or you might put wood in the fire, it still get burnt. It's fire.
Yeah, that's true. So, we've been talking for a while, but I'd like to close this off by maybe touching on medical astrology. You think you can give us a brief explanation on that or something, however you want?
Okay, well, as I said, the 12 systems, once you know all the systems, mm-hmm. For instance, if you've got Saturn in Aries, generally people who have Saturn in Aries, they have mental unpleasant things like headaches, migraines, lack of concentration, head injuries, mental fatigue, because Saturn falls in Aries, and Saturn is, not so good in that sign. Mm-hmm. And so medical astrology is based on this. When you see where the planets are in each sign and how they are aspecting with other planets, then you are able to determine, a doctor can determine what sort of condition is there. Because what all astrologers know is that there are 4 universal elements, not natural elements, which are earth, water, air, and fire, which correspond to solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. The universal elements are hot and cold, dry, and moist. And every planet has has two of those. The two active ones are hot and cold. They are agents. And the two passive ones are dry and moist. They are patients. Passive patients, active agents. And so each planet will have one agent and one patient. Mars is hot and dry. Saturn is cold and dry. Jupiter is hot and moist. That's why Jupiter is a benefic, because if you want to grow a garden, you want heat and moisture.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want Saturn cold and no water, dry. You won't grow your garden. But cold and dry is good for certain things. So when you go to your Chinese practitioner, he looks at your tongue, he checks your pulse, remember it's a pulse wave universe, and he tells you, oh, your tongue, it looks hot. You need cold foods. You need some dandelion to cool your kidneys and your liver. You see? So he will give you herbs which are cooling or dry or hot or moist. And with those four humours, you can fix anything in the body. That's how I am still alive at 56 and still, well, as healthy as I can be, because of knowing this, because of watching my lungs, whether they're hot, whether they're dry, moist, or whatever, and taking supplements and protocols to suit that. So that's how medical astrology learns. You need to learn the 12 systems, the condition of the planets, the aspects, and the universal humours, the four humours or elements: hot, cold, dry, moist.
Okay, yeah, nice. Thank you for that. You know, there's also other things now that we're at the end of the talk and realize we could have talked about. Like, remember last time we were gonna talk about, you know, targeted individuals and things of that nature, and that was very interesting. So I'm hoping that maybe we can do another talk in the future. Yeah.
Well, we would have to, because there's so much to say and it needs a whole other presentation. So maybe next week or something, I can do that, because I have been a targeted individual and I know a lot about the subject.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time. This has been the Alkali Serialized Talk Show. So is there anywhere we can find you if we are interested in, you know?
My YouTube channel is Mr. Astrotheology, and my website is universaltruthschool.com.
Yeah. Nice talking to you. Well,
Thanks,
with us, hold on, my bad. With us, you can find us on YouTube at Alkali Serialized Talk Show. We also have a page. On Facebook, it's called The Activation of the Philosopher's Stone. And this has been the show.